Right. So, this is the first session wherein we are discussing about the importance of application development, because this is something, as I stated last time, even over a call I have told you.
Mhm.
So, this is something useful for the people. Before I'm getting into that, let me give you a clarity in what way this is useful and how is this useful to you, and
Mhm.
hopefully for you and for everyone, right? So, but in what way it is. So,
Right. Mhm.
application development is a program which is majorly useful for the people who wants to acquire some technical knowledge.
Mhm.
So this technical knowledge is not something confined to any programming language specific.
Okay. Mhm.
Because when it comes to the application development in scenario understanding, there are two different phases. One
Mhm.
is functional phase, second is a technical phase.
Right. Mhm.
As you are a business analyst, let me take you as an example. You are a business analyst having a couple of years of experience.
Mhm.
You are in the functional side of the application development. Means
Right. Mhm.
you are trying to gather the requirements, whatever the requirements were gathered by you. You are translating that into a documentation format, user stories, and
Mhm.
finally, this you are submitting to your technical team so that they will be developing application accordingly. That
Right.
is what generally do.
Mhm.
But when someone has identified the business problem as a business analyst, when we have translated into a documentation format or as a user story,
Mhm.
implementation has to be taken care of by the technical team.
Okay.
So application development is completely a logical understanding. It's not a
Mhm.
functional understanding. Because
Mhm.
functional understanding was already given by a team of people, whoever has already appointed for.
Mhm.
Comes to the logical understanding must ensure how the application has to develop, how the
Mhm.
application has to develop. When it comes to the application, there will be many applications we have for a very long time. First of
Mhm.
all, if a person, whoever is working as a business analyst, or maybe in any other profile, now and then it is always becoming important for people to acquire technical knowledge also, because it was not like earlier situation. And I
Right.
don't say that you must be good at programming or you must be good at something of that sort. I don't say. But
Mhm.
situations are changing now and then in such a way where people are expecting you to become a technical business analyst.
Right.
Technical, right? So nothing to do with again functionality, right? So either you may be having experience in banking, insurance, supply chain, or healthcare, whichever the domain you are belongs to.
Mhm.
Some technical knowledge is required so that it is easy for you to communicate with stakeholders. It is easy for you to communicate with everyone. Understand, right? So
Right.
either you are a business analyst or people working into the functional side of the application development, or who wants to transform their career into the field of application development. First of
Mhm.
all, they should understand what are the different applications they have. First point to be noted. Point number one.
Mhm.
Point number two. They must be knowing about what are the different layers in the application. Point number two. Point
Mhm.
number three, they must be knowing about the design part of the project, which is essentially required. That is what generally we call it as system analysis and design. Hope you might
Mhm.
have heard about it.
Right. Mhm.
Design. Point number four, you must be knowing about the architectures of the project. Because
Mhm.
once you have designed some application or once you have designed an application, so there is an architecture which you have to inbuilt in. You have to inbuilt some architecture to that particular design So that is nothing but it's nothing but a technical roadmap to the technical team to develop the solution. So you must be having a knowledge over the architecture part. Next, after that, we must be having a knowledge over the programming for sure. Because sometime back I told you, you never know what kind of requirements we come across and how the industry evolves, changes as far as their expectation of a particular role is concerned may change at any time. They may having a knowledge over logical improving the logical ability is always required. So when logical ability will be developed, when you try to understand the logic of a particular functionality, then logical ability will increase. So if you want to have that logical ability, is always preferable to have some basic understanding over programming language. Understood? Right?
Yes.
Programming. Now, when it comes to the programming languages, normally we have many languages, but one of the major and basic language which most of the programming languages were depend on is called Java. So, as I already mentioned earlier, having knowledge over Java at the same time having knowledge over another Microsoft application called .NET is always preferable because most of the projects either will be developed in the field of Java or .NET, even till today, even till today. Next, whichever the programming languages here onwards we are using. For example, if you take property and casualty insurance as a domain, there is a there is an application called Guidewire. Right? Guidewire is an application which is majorly used to manage policies, billing, claims, all that, right? So that's what something which normally we use. So for that, there is a programming language called Gosu we use. Gosu, G-O-S-U. Gosu is a programming language.
Okay.
Gosu programming language base itself is Java. If you learn Java so that people can write code there. So writing the code, understanding the object-oriented programming is one of the key and important element, especially when we are working on application development. Again, I am repeating application development, nothing to do with the role here, right? So because mix of everything, a person having business analysis experience should require some technical things and technical knowledge nowadays. Vice versa, person having technical knowledge required some functional experience. This is how the industry expecting multiple skills by any people. That's the reason why understanding our programming, basics of programming, logicals of programming, this is also some of the key and important element is what something which you have to be good with. This is one more point.
Okay.
Next, you must be having, an individual must be having some deployment understanding. What is meant by deployment? Deployment means, let's say you have developed an application. Okay. When you have developed an application, there are two kind of applications you see. I'll give you a scenario. Let's say some customer, let's say for example, you take banking or a financial institution. Okay, for example. So bank or a financial institution is a client expecting you to develop an application for their business needs. Okay, they came to you, to your organization. They have given all their requirements and they want you to develop some solution for that. Not application, some solution they want. Solution you are proposing in a form of application. You know that, right? So solution you want to develop. Normally, when we develop solution, there will be of two different options. One is on-premise solution, second is a cloud-based solution. So what is on-premise and what is cloud-based? On-premise solution means you are developing an application where this application will be deployed in the client environment because customer don't want a cloud-based application, they want an on-premise. On-premise means they maintain their own data centers maintain their own servers, firewalls, and all. Application has to be installed in their systems and server. That's what you're listening, right?
Right. Yes.
This is on-premise. On-premise means because especially why I have specified banking and financial institutions is banking and financial institutions, many applications, most of the applications, they want on-premise. They don't
Right.
usually prefer cloud. They don't usually prefer cloud. Because you can ask me one thing, Raj, why don't they go for cloud? Because cloud is infrastructure, everything can be manageable, na? Kar sakte. Manage kar sakte, na? Easily.
Right.
But the practical problem is, especially in cloud environment, whatever the infrastructure, normally in cloud, we have three. One is, let me write. I think, hope you have an idea, but let me write. As far as the cloud is concerned, services, excuse me, will be of three different types. One is IaaS, second is PaaS, third is SaaS. IaaS stands for infrastructure as a service, means whatever the required infrastructure is needed for an organization to manage, every infrastructure will be provided by the cloud service providers. The best example you can take Amazon Web Services, AWS. AWS is one of the key infrastructure as a service provider. Of course, they provide platform and software also, but infrastructure wise services and all, AWS is so prominent, right? So infrastructure also they provide if you want, they can do that. This is all cloud, I'm saying, okay?
Right.
And they can create a platform for you to build the application. Because if you, for example, you want to construct a building, what is required? You require a base for that. So you have to build a platform base. On that building will be constructed, right?
Right.
So size of the building, type of the building, based on that basement will be designed. Agreed? Right? Next, type of soil. I'm giving an example which is non-IT. Type of soil, the kind of soil it was, the kind of geographical location it was located, based on that platform will be designed in such a way so that when there is any natural calamity happened and all, it shouldn't be having any kind of casualties, damages to the building, as less mainly to the people, right? So platform will also be provided by the cloud service providers.
Okay.
Next, software as a service. Whatever the required software for us to develop the application, even software as a services will also be provided in this regard. So three different things. One is infrastructure, second platform, third software. These three services will be provided by the cloud service provider so that the infrastructure cost, maintenance cost and all everything will be managed. But the practical problem is, especially banks and financial institutions deals with lot of financial data.
Right.
Financial transactions happens more.
Right.
So majorly what they prefer is they want some on-premise solution. What is on-premise? On-premise means they're having a data center, okay? And whatever the firewalls, whatever the security, third-party applications and all, everything will be there. And whatever the applications they are managing, everything will be managed in this data center only. They want to have a data center in their premise. So why am I saying all this? Because when I'm talking about deployment, because I told you, deployment is what something we are discussing now.
Right.
As far as the deployment itself is concerned, this deployment has to be done in their environment.
Okay.
Deployment should happen in their environment. In the on-premise itself, it has to happen. So that application will be deployed in their environment, in their systems, make sure application is well working. Finally, what customer do? Customer will accept to deliver the project. Understood? Right?
Right.
So, understanding over the deployment is also one of the key and important element. Being a person working under application development is always required, because when we are learning technology, there are many things. One is understanding the logical skills.
Right.
Logical skills. Logical skills can be imparted through programming only. It is not something to say on word, right? So it's not something like a functional kind of. Logical skills has to be imparted through a programming language. That is point number one.
Mm-hmm.
Next, design skills. Right? So designing skills comes with design of the application, etc. This is all something comes under the design skills. This is what something comes under application development. This is all something I'm talking about from the technical point of view, Neelam. Okay, do remember.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is an application development, so understanding this part is required. Next, you need to have deployment skills. Means deploying an application.
Mm-hmm.
Deploying an application means you have to deploy the application at the customer location and you have to show. This is majorly, as I told you, because applications will be of two different. One is on-premise, second is a cloud, as I mentioned already.
Mm-hmm.
So this is more or less useful for everyone. Understood? Clear, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So deployment. So deploying. Now you can ask me, Raj, in what way deployment happens in cloud environment. This is all something I'm giving you a high level view. Okay, do remember,
Mm-hmm.
not the
Mm-hmm.
detail, because this is all for you to understand how and what is that are we learning. Okay, that's what
Right.
my context is this
Mm-hmm.
today. Normally in deployments, usually as far as the on-premise services is concerned, as I already mentioned you,
Mm-hmm.
we have our own physical systems and all where application will be deployed in that environment. That's what something we do.
Mm-hmm.
But whereas when it comes to the application in context to the cloud applications, there are virtual missions. There are, we call it as virtual missions, VM, virtual missions. Virtual mission means whatever the application you want to deploy, for everything, there will be a mission. For example, I'll give you a scenario to you. Let's say you are developing a solution for one of your banking client. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, banking client, as far as the solution is concerned, you need to deploy two or three applications at a time. You have to deploy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to deploy two, three application and to run, what is required? You require two, three systems, two, three servers, etc., etc. Right? You require multiple devices, multiple systems, infrastructure, investment, maintenance, complex. Am I right? Yes or no?
Right. Right.
Right? But when it comes to the cloud environment, especially the importance of virtual machine is you have a single system. There will be two to three virtual machines will be as separate. Okay. Or two or three or four virtual machines will be. Whichever the application you want to deploy, you can deploy in that particular virtual machine. Same one physical system. In that physical system, you have four virtual machines as separate.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? Clear?
Mm-hmm.
Neelam, listening, right?
Right. Right.
So in the cloud environment, this is what generally we call it as virtual deployment is called as. So for that, hope you might be having an idea. Now and then we are using a word called Kubernetes. I think
Mm-hmm.
you might have heard about this name, right? Kubernetes.
Right. Right. I heard. Yeah.
Kubernetes is a part of DevOps environment because you need to understand DevOps also. That I must tell you. I've forgotten to tell you that, right? DevOps. DevOps environment. DevOps means development and operations. Two different things. Means development, application development, operations, nothing but deploying the application.
Okay.
So for that, there is a tool called, of course, there were many tools under DevOps environment, Jenkins, Kubernetes, Ansible, Negoes, right? So there are many, GitHub, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the prominent tool called Kubernetes. Kubernetes is an application which is widely used to deploy the application in the virtual environment. Understood? Clear?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. So this is what generally deployment skills is what something which being a application development professional one must be good with.
Mm-hmm.
Is it clear to you? Understood?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So this is an overall understanding over the person one should understand. First of all, you need to impart develop the logical skills. So for that, some programming skills and programming knowledge is always required.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, prior to that, of course, you must be having a knowledge over the application development life cycle. What are the different layers will be there? Right? So
Mm-hmm.
logical view, or it can be a process view, as I'm stating, showing you on the screen. That is required. So after that, programming skills and all everything were needed.
Mm-hmm.
Next, designing skills are required. Next, deployment skills will also be needed. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the overall expertise or understanding being into application development one must be good with. If they want to transform their career to the
Mm-hmm.
logical side, technical
Mm-hmm.
side,
Mm-hmm.
or to acquire some knowledge technically, this is what something which normally we will be getting. Understood,
Okay.
Neela? Right?
Yes, sir. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So for that, there are different technologies because, for example, of course, tomorrow I'll tell you because this is an intro part. Tomorrow I'll tell you what are the different layers will be there. Normally, when we go for presentation layer, all that,
Mm-hmm.
we use something like HTML, right? So
Mm-hmm.
cascading style sheets like CSS, right? So JavaScript, right? So this understanding is required.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge over HTML, CSS, JavaScript is also required for you because
Mm-hmm.
this is all something relating to the technical thing that is needed.
Okay.
Next, we must be having a programming basic understanding of object-oriented programming, as I mentioned you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Normally, it can be mostly Java because
Mm-hmm.
understanding the Java architecture. And even now and then, apart from Java, it's always advisable to have a knowledge over .NET even, .NET
Mm-hmm.
architecture and .NET applications because I'll tell you the reason. See, application deployment, we were doing this, it's happening for last more than 2 decades, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were many thousands and lakhs of applications were already deployed, developed already earlier.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, most of the people are in a stage of transforming from old systems to the new system.
Yes,
Okay.
right. Mm-hmm.
So that time you never know what kind of technology it was built upon. Because there
Mm-hmm.
are some applications where you see those applications were mainframe based applications.
Right.
Mainframe based means applications will be in the mainframe environment.
Mm-hmm.
Mainframe environment. There are different tools like COBOL, right? So COBOL is a programming language. DB2 is a database, right? So different programming languages, databases will be there. Using
Mm-hmm.
the tools, generally mainframe application was built at one point in time. Because nowadays practical problem is if you want to enhance mainframe application or if you want to change the mainframe application, it is difficult because
Mm-hmm.
you see very less people who understand the mainframes architecture because
Right.
most of the people were came out of mainframes and they have transformed their career into other areas. But
Mm-hmm.
now, for example, a customer came to you and they want you to transform their application from mainframes to new application.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, your team should understand mainframes first. Yes, sir. Right?
Right. Correct. Mm-hmm.
In the same manner, even for .NET and etc. also. Because, for example, if application was developed and deployed and using .NET as well as VB, ASP, C Sharp and all for a very long time. For example, what they
Mm-hmm.
want now, they want to transform from .NET applications or VB applications or some applications to now either it can be a cloud or etc.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, what is required? Existing understanding is required. That's what generally in business analysis we call it as is
As
process.
this analysis, right?
Existing matlab as is process means as it is. As it is
Mm-hmm.
means what exactly the existing system, how it is functioning, how it is working. So what is the architecture for the existing system? Understanding over that is important.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that, then it is easy for you to
Mm-hmm.
develop the application accordingly. Understand? Clear?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Neelam, clear or not?
Right, sir. Yes, yes.
Right. So this is what something which being a person having application development skills or knowledge is what something which we have to acquire with. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
because that's the reason why it's always better to have a knowledge over Java object-oriented programming, .NET, especially need to know about the applications, followed by this. Prior to that, you need to have a knowledge over the framework. All these things are comes under this part. Okay. Next, architecture part, designing. That's where I'm saying there are two different things. Designing is different, architecture is different. Designing means application design or system analysis design, we call it as. How the system should perform, how the system should work, right? So characteristic of a particular application is called system designing. Okay, non-functional. It normally derives from the non-functional requirements, the system level designs and all everything we do it. So normally when we try to develop system level design, there will be of two different things. One is HLD, second is LLD, right? So high level design, low level design. High level design means what exactly high level design of the application we are developing. That's all comes under high level design. Next one, LLD, stands for low level design. What is low level design stands for? Low level design means what programs are you writing? How many irrespective of the programming language, right? Either it can be Java or it can be anything. How many programs you are writing? How many logics you are implementing? Right? So because let's say, for example, if you take a banking application, we are developing a core banking application that consists of 4 features or 3 features. Each and every feature will have multiple functionalities. Let's say at least you need to write not less than 30 to 40 programs. For example, I'm giving the rough figure. 30 to 40 programs you have to write. If you want to write a program, there must be some logic you have to build upon. Am I right? You have to develop a logic. Means 1 plus 2 equal to 3. How you got this? There is a program which was written in back of the application. The way programming language, nothing but the language which system understands. Because you and me are speaking in a language called English, so that you and me can understand well. But how can you understand? How can you instruct your system to understand your instructions? That's where generally programming language come into picture. So how many programs you are writing? How many? What are the algorithms are we using in it? What are the design patterns which are involved in it? So this is all something comes under the low level design part. Understood? Clear?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir, I got it.
So understanding over the design is required. High level design, low level designs, system designing is required. So in that system design, of course, as part of the BA role, hope you know, we used to prepare use cases, right, sequence diagrams, all that. This is all functional side. The technical side, there are some class diagrams, object diagrams will be there. So that is what generally an understanding over system designing and all everything is required to acquire some knowledge from the application development point of view. Clear for you? Understood?
Yes.
Understood?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. Next about architecture. When you talk about architecture, architecture will be inbuilt in the design. First of all, design we have to create. Architecture comes next. Architecture comes next. Why? Because architecture have many dimensions. We have that I'll explain tomorrow. I'll be explaining about what are the layers in the project and what are the layers in the application. I'll explain tomorrow. Architecture we call it as. Architecture means we need to have an understanding over enterprise architecture, and at the same time second is solution architecture. Two different things. Enterprise architecture means understanding the whole enterprise. For example, we are developing application for a banking customer. Let's say they were using 10 applications in their organization. They want the 11th one to be developed. In this 11, in this 10 applications, assume that there were 6 applications which are on-premise. And 4 applications were cloud. For example, Salesforce CRM they are using. Okay, it's a cloud application. Or Dynamics CRM, it's a cloud application. Like that they were using. So when you are trying to develop an application from a technical point of view, it's not an application what you're developing. End of the day, in what way it will communicate with other systems is also required. Am I right?
Right, correct.
Yes, sir. Right? So you have to rightly fit this application in the middle of the organization, and this must be properly connecting to everything.
Right.
Yes, sir. Right? So this is where generally we call it as This is where generally we call it as
Enterprise.
architecture is all about. So this is where generally we call it as enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture deals majorly with business architecture. It majorly deals with application architecture, systems architecture, data architecture. Means data architecture means how the data flow process happens from one system to another system. This is what we call it as data architecture.
Okay.
Understood, Neela? Clear?
Yes,
Right?
sir. Yes.
So this is overall understanding over the application development. One must be good with architecture, designing part. Next, deployment, right? So when you want to deploy the application, how the deployment will be taken place, what are the deployment steps to be taken, what are the deployment procedure one has to follow. Everything will be explained here.
Okay.
Do you understand this? Clear?
Yes, sir. I got it.
Right. So this is overall scenario, understanding about the application development. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Any questions on this regard?
No, sir. So far, so good.
Right. So this is all about this. And tomorrow I'm going to start with application development lifecycle process. And
Okay.
first of all, should understand about what are the different types of applications we have and what are the different layers of application that I'm
Okay.
going to discuss you in tomorrow session.
Okay. Sure, sir.
Clear, Neela?
Yes, sir. I got it. Yep.
This is a little session today I have taken. Right. You
To
can.
get the scenario. Yeah.
Right, Neela. See you. Bye.
Yes, sir. Okay. See you. Bye bye. Thank you so much.